Talk. We are here on the 23rd day of February 2024. So if you're watching that 10 years from now, you know,
Hello from the past.
why would Kevin say something like that? I have videos I put up in '05 that people still watch. So the internet is just a big old, it saves everything. People find it later on. That's why they tell you don't put anything on the internet that you don't want to be found.
It's public and permanent.
I mean, they download the whole darn internet all the time. The
Yeah.
whole thing is literally downloaded. So if you put it up here, it's not private. And of course, Phil and I don't mean it to be private. And hello, the couple of people that are with us.
Yeah.
And anybody, we don't know who's over on YouTube, if somebody's over there. It's being live streamed over to YouTube and recorded. And we're going to talk a little bit about, well, this time we gave it a fancy name of Therapeutic Heuristic. We're conducting ACT with precision, scope, and depth. And so this is geek. I mean, Phil and I, we got to do some degrees, so maybe we're smart, and we got other qualities that lead us toward being geeks. So, and we've studied
a few. Yeah,
we've studied a lot of this ACT stuff, and so with that, we'll tell you what the matrix has always been. Is a heuristic. It was, that word was in my mind either while or just directly after I created it, because a heuristic is the mathematical term, really, or at least a problem-solving term that says it's going to give you the workable result. We'll use that word almost all the time. That means it doesn't always. If you want all the time, you have to have an algorithm. And an algorithm, and that's 2 + 2 = 4. I mean, if that algorithm gives you 4 every time. The heuristic version doesn't. So what do you mean by that? Well, it was meant to get the core ACT process going. And Phil and I, and we've been doing this from 2009 now.
Yes. 09.
It's like 98, 99% of the time. It's really often. It works to get the core ACT process going. And when we mean going, that's just what we mean. Like you're up and riding a bicycle, or you've turned the engine over in your car and it's running.
Pull a lawnmower to start your lawnmower.
Oh, yeah. Any of those things you want to think of, that works. Even walking, your first few steps, maybe you're a little bit not warmed up, and after a little bit, you're in the flow. You're walking, you're moving, and that's what it is. And they say, well, what's the core ACT process? My goodness, what is that? Because you'll read in the original ACT book and other ACT books, you might read this sentence, and it's by, I'm quoting Steve Hayes, and it says, the outcome of ACT is a process. That's the sentence. So we'll say it again. The outcome of ACT is a process. So what that means is that you start ACT, you begin it, and then way over there, doesn't have to be way. Well, in the first book, it was way.
Oh, there was a lot of way, yeah.
There was miles away before you finally got to the process going. And so in large part, what I was up to was to do a simplification of all the ACT books, anyone you wanted to grab, any of them that existed from 1998 up to about 2006 or 7 or so. shrink them down. Okay, get it into a quick process. And that is a heuristic that starts up the process. So that's the explanation. That's what we mean by that heuristic. So of course the heuristic was named the matrix. If you've read the Matrix book, the original Matrix book, you'll know that it, for a brief couple of 3 weeks, it was named the grid, GRID,
Right.
grid.
I remember that.
Right. But that, oh, I'm literally, folks, it only lasted a couple of 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then the Buddhist monk guy said, "Hey, Kevin, you need to call it the Matrix because that's got Keanu Reeves sexy attached to it." And it's stuck, and I wouldn't dare call it anything else. So, and it is, by the way, a bit of a matrix. Mathematically, it's
There you
a
go.
bit. Some people say, no, you can't have a 2 by 2 matrix like that. Well, maybe you can. Nevertheless, that's how it works. And so you say, well, what in the world is he talking about? Anything you want to say, Phil? Anything?
No, you just keep rolling along there, Kevin.
Okay, so what that means is we're geeking, right?
Yeah, we're
this is a geeky
We're
segment.
geeking. Yep.
The ACT matrix, or ACT, is built on behaviorism, folks. So that might come as a shock to you. Like, I wasn't expecting that. And you may not even gather that when you read it. When you read the ACT books and stuff, you might. But good old Steve Hayes, he came out of behavioral analysis. In the end, sort of went to war with them, right? Left the ranks and went elsewhere. But this is all built on this behaviorism. Think Skinner, Watson,
Yep.
Those kinds of folks. Now, what had happened was at the end, B.F. Skinner, who got famous for his Skinner boxes, and the therapeutic crowd, even to this day, is a pretty mean lot, really. And part of them, the people who wanted, sort of maybe Freudian, maybe Rogerian, Rogers, that kind of therapy, they just attacked Skinner unmercifully.
They were just brutal on it.
Just brutalized him, really. So that, especially by the 70s or so, behaviorism had really been tossed aside. Now, it later made a bit of a comeback, and you'll still recognize it, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which for the most part doesn't contain much behaviorism. And if you I used to fly about the country training CBT, so I know. It's it's the emphasis on the cognitive, how you're thinking. So Steve Hayes and company went back, and it was really how do you dress up? There's a good word. Dress up, change behavior.
Yeah, we talked about putting lipstick on it. Yeah.
There's an old phrase saying "put lipstick on a pig." Behaviorism's not a pig. It's actually quite good, and it explains all kinds of stuff really well.
Yes.
People just couldn't imagine, and here's what they were saying. Well, you put the human inside of a Skinner box,
right,
and you make them press levers, to get rewards.
Rewarded, punish them,
or you're going to give them electroshock to their feet,
zap them.
And when they escape from that, they get relief, from negative reinforcement. That's the kind of story that went on, and oh my gosh, we don't want that. And so, okay, so they're going to dress this up nicer. And that's what you're dealing with ACT, is that. And so that is represented on the matrix. So it's easy to see on the matrix. And on the matrix, over there to the right, Phil has satisfaction right now,
Yep.
you can actually put that out and put approach, which is one of the words that you get out of behaviorism, to approach. And then if your approach works, you'll get positive reinforcement.
Reward, yay!
And that, by the way, if you want to go back to your Psych 101, R plus, reward plus, positive reinforcement is over there. And of course, they also discovered back in behaviorism days that then the avoidance is the same. That's what it is. And what you get for that is, remember I mentioned the electric shock. So if you're shocking something and they do something to get rid of the shock, So let's say you grab, and it's pretty fast, if you grab a 110-volt wire, you'll go, whoa.
Yep. No thinking involved there.
And it will teach you something. It will teach you not to touch those wires anymore. And that's what us humans are great about. We figured out, hey, I'm just going to avoid those wires altogether. And so, but it's nevertheless an avoidance. It's relief. And that is negative reinforcement. The good old minus R, negative R.
Removal.
And these things are still quite valid. Anybody who's done any dog training or something like that knows, positive. Well, for that matter, kids.
I'm just thinking we parents.
Yeah, parenting. It's all a whole bunch. You could, if you haven't been a parent yet, you might poo-poo it. But after you've been a parent, you
get behavioral very quick.
Yeah,
really quick.
Really quick. You're going to be offering rewards and not punishments, because that's not it. But you're definitely you're going to give them the hairy eyeball.
Oh yeah.
Until they start acting right.
Stare.
And then you remove the hairy eyeball, and that's relief. And if you don't know what the hairy eyeball is, think of how your mother used to look at you when you were, misbehaving.
Yeah. Going for them cookies in the cookie jar.
Yeah, they give you that look.
Right.
And then you do a behavior and that look goes away. And it feels better. So that's the negative. And it goes on all the time, folks. So just because the touchy-feely therapists in the 60s didn't like it, that's like gravity. They may not have liked gravity, but it didn't go anywhere.
It's still running in the background.
It's the same with this positive and negative reinforcement stuff. Punishment is also in there, but in case you don't know, the punishment has to be right on top.
Absolutely immediate. Yep.
Right on top of the behavior.
A cattle prod, zap.
Yeah, it's not here.
We're not walking around with cattle prods. No.
We're not doing anything with that. It's not represented. But that's so that horizontal line of the matrix is behaviorism, folks.
Right there.
That's what it is. Now we're like Steve Hayes. We don't always go with that. Satisfaction and relief, and we dress it up, put the lipstick on the pig, if you wanted to call it that way. But at the end of the day, it's still just garden variety behavioral stuff that works just fine, right?
Yep.
In 2024, and it works within yourself. Now, but remember I said it was based off of behavioral analysis. So in case you don't know, behavioral analysis is where somebody a behavior analyst, notices somebody else's behavior and then analyzes it.
Yep.
They do a behavioral analysis. And Phil's very familiar with them because he worked in the schools.
Yeah, functional behavioral analysis all the time.
Right. And then they develop a behavioral plan, right?
Based on observations and measurement.
Right. And of course, it's how to fix the kid. And,
Absolutely.
and it's absolutely an algorithm, just works perfectly
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Pure sarcasm, folks.
Well,
There's no kid around that can't beat a behavior plan.
yep. Well, as soon as the behavior plan is written, then you have a defunct behavior plan. The moment
Yeah, they don't last more than a microsecond.
right.
They go away.
Time for a new behavior plan.
Now, I know the behavior analysts in the crowd will be going, "Oh my God, oh my God." But come on, Phil and I worked on the other side in reality world. No,
Down in the trenches.
they don't. No, they don't. Tell you the truth, folks, nobody reads them.
Well, that was the other problem.
So, but I got sidetracked. Sorry. It's about somebody else analyzing behavior. ACT is about you analyzing your behavior. So that was that's the big shift. You go from behavior analytic where you have an outsider analyzing your behavior. Now you are going to analyze your behavior. And to do that, you have to do, well, yeah, you'd have to. There's this thing that we humans can do because of the way our brains develop from birth on. We develop this ability to, in quotes, see ourselves from a distance. Now, you're not really are, but it seems that way, and that's good enough.
Good enough is the key here, folks.
Well, works just fine. And you'll even see it written about, seeing yourself from the 10,000. They think of yourself in an airplane. So the 10,000 foot
Yeah.
view and the 20,000 foot view and the 30,000, like that. So you're looking back on yourself. That's how you do your own private analysis.
Within yourself.
Why is Kevin saying this? Because, Phil, please hold it up.
Oh, yes.
There it is. Now you're looking at it.
Yay!
That's what it was for. It was so you could develop that view
Perspective.
almost instantaneously, that distance view, that self-behavioral analytic view. So and it's a heuristic for developing that point of view. That's what it does. And it works pretty darn well too. It
Yep.
really does. So
Pretty
so
handy.
so now you see we've gone from behaviorism, but now we're noticing our behavior. And the easiest thing to notice is not approach avoidance. It's to notice the feelings that occur in relation to a behavior. So I do something, I ask somebody out on a date, hopefully my wife, and she says, "Yes, I would love to go." Ah, positive reinforcement,
Yay!
Right. Uh, Phil got his up signal. Get your thumbs
Oh,
up.
it went again. Oh, jeez.
And he thought he had his turned off.
You know,
They don't turn off.
no.
And then on the other side, you got pain and you get relief. You take some Tylenol or Motrin or whatever it is, and you get some relief, right? So that's why we switched the language to feelings, satisfaction and relief, because those are much easier to notice. Gee, I'm noticing the feeling of satisfaction showing up. Cool. Gee, I'm noticing the feeling of relief showing up. Cool. Those two sentences are a self-analysis of behavior. All you got to do is notice, folks. The analysis is automatic. Happens.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So that's it. So now I'm noticing relief. I'm noticing satisfaction. Voila. So you see how we've stepped from raw behaviorism and back that up to the feeling level, the human feeling level, and now we're noticing feelings.
Go here.
So there you go. That's how that line is built. That's how that was built up. And so that's how we do it. Works like a charm. Most everybody knows the feeling of satisfaction,
Mhm.
and most everybody knows the feeling of relief. When I say that, I always think of the Alka-Seltzer plot, plot, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. They even use that. So it's really cool. Okay, so now we've built the horizontal line. Now we need to geek out and build the vertical line. Well, now we've got to step away from behaviorism. No, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to give that up. And now we're going to go to really what human perception, really what it is. And you bring in information through your senses. Now, they usually say 5. See, hear, taste, smell, touch, right? And then they'll say, what about proprioception, which is where your hands and limbs are in
Yeah.
space?
Spatial orientation stuff.
You want to add that in more?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Any other esoteric, legit senses?
Yeah, legit, right.
Whatever. But that's where you're getting information in. Right? So we call it the senses. No big damn deal. Now then, that stuff, and we do it this way arbitrarily. We don't
Right.
know. We don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
But the way we do it is we say it shoots down and gets into the mind. Okay. And so now at any given time, you can do that measurement, meaning you can have somebody stare at a screen, flash something on the
Oh, yeah.
screen, have electrodes hooked up to the brain, and you can literally watch this happen as a stimulus hits the eyes and then gets transformed into
Spawn.
brain functioning, brain stuff. And it takes like just a few milliseconds for it to occur. So when we say that, that's what we mean. It goes down into the mind. Now, why is that important? It's important because of language. That's why it's important. And the other thing that ACT is built upon is relational frame theory. And relational frame theory is it's an explanation of how humans develop language. But it's an explanation that not only tells you how language develops, it also gives you, in the end, it gives you a set of tools that you can use to change your relationship with language, which is cool because, let's say, Noam Chomsky or any of these other language theorists from back in the day, it's always a one-way street thing. There's no therapy involved. There's no way of influencing things. So this one does. But so what it essentially says is that as a very early time, even in the womb, we're already hearing words in whatever our native language is. We're hearing words. And especially you come out and you're hearing your name, you're hearing mom, you're hearing dad, you're hearing, maybe the dog's name. You're hearing stuff, right? But the most frequently occurring is mom and dad.
Yep.
And we like moms, so we pick on mom. M-O-M, mom. It's a sound. It's just a sound. It's not at that point, it's truly just a sound inside the infant. But over time, that mom sound gets related to stuff that shows up right around the time you're hearing mom, which is probably, well, mom. That lady with 2 limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs, torso, all that. There's the mom. And of course, what you're really focused on is the face. Humans are exquisitely aware of faces. So mom smiling, mom frowning. That's where that hairy eyeball comes from.
Right.
And so all of that, it gets related. And that's why they use the term related onto mom. So for you personally, as an infant, mom had all of that stuff on it. So pretty soon it was all the way down in your head. So you could be in your crib, let's say, and think of mom. Voila. And now all of that stuff that was sensory experiencing and emotionally experiencing, that is now related, you know, sort of velcroed on to mom. That sound shows up. And to this day, most all of you have a mom, and when you think of mom, poof, you get the memories of mom, all kinds of stuff. It's probably if mom and dad are close together in the most related to sounds in any human. They're way up there. And that makes them the stickiest, by the way, if you're looking at it. So they say, well, why is that important? Well, because it doesn't take very many years of doing that, or you can just daydream away. You can just be thinking of stuff down there in the mind, and it's as if it was actually occurring.
Yep.
And it's as if, because you have all those rich experiences related. Remember, it's relational frame theory. So all the smells and feelings and all that, those are frames. And those frames are related onto the sound of the word. And so and the word that they use in ACT is, well, I have to reverse. They call it diffusion, so it's fusion. So they get fused onto the sound of the word. And so ACT, if you've studied ACT much at all, you'll hear the term diffusion. Well, that's where you're trying to lessen the stickiness of a word, what you're doing. But you can't do it by removing frames. They don't remove.
Right.
I mean, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe severe brain injury, but those are some really not very nice things for removing, changing how you.
Other things are being removed there too.
So this brings us to the end. So ACT is not about the diffusion. It has nothing to do with removing. The diffusion has everything to do with adding. And if you got stuck stuff, like maybe you got a mom issue. Has anybody ever had a mom issue, Phil?
Yeah, I've met a few people that have said they do indeed have mom issues.
I'm tipping my hat to
I
Freud.
would be maybe one of them too. I think I probably count myself among that crew.
It's a joke, folks. Of course, lots of people have mom issues, but you can't take away your memories of mom. They don't go away. So what you're going to do is add new frames. And so all of ACT is simply adding new frames to language, to either single words or phrases or whatever thoughts that you have. It's about adding frames. So notice the difference between CBT and that. CBT says you got to change the thought.
Oh yeah.
ACT says accept the thought, add this to it, add this new experience to it. And so it's really built, so it's really cool what they did to take that behaviorism and then add that theory of language and cognition. And that's what Skinner was missing, by the way. That was his troubles, was adding that on. So Steve Hayes figured out a way of doing it. Now, and it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be right, because what we've now drawn actually is a way of thinking about human behavior, and we can notice human behavior, and we just got to add one more little element to it, which is a direction. Hey, Phil, why do us humans feel like we have a direction? I mean, even if you don't have a direction, you sort of feel like you got a direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there. It's called the arrow of time.
Time.
And so, you'll say something like, well, every day I get a little bit older, darn it, I've had another birthday and it added another year. Ouch.
Oh, time has flown by.
That's the direction.
Yep.
You're moving through time. And we all sense that. We see the sun come up and set and
The seasons change and
all of
weather.
that. And that gives you this naturally occurring directionality. And once you have the concept of death, now you know, uh-oh.
Mhm. This train's heading somewhere.
This train's heading toward whoops. No more. And so that's where this concept of me here now, that's now, me here now, and me there then. It could actually go two directions.
Yep.
Me there then could be me in the past. So
Or
I'm thinking about my 10-year-old self back there. Or it could be, gee, I can see myself in the future. Remember that ability to see yourself from the 10,000 or whatever 1,000-foot view you want. Well, that's me into the future. And ACT uses the future one. And it does that by saying people have values that they would like to move toward. So I'm moving through time anyway. Why don't I just add a value to it?
seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Very reasonable. So 5 years hence, I will be a good person. I'll say I cheated because really you can just do good person all the damn time. But you know what? It wouldn't be bad to have on the epitaph. Hey, here lies Kevin Polk. He was a good person.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Instead of he was a royal asshole. Oh, shit.
Oh, man. And that's chiseled on there too. I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. All right. Got to chisel out and erase that. I don't like that. Right. So, and really, then ACT has this tombstone metaphor. Why I'm trying to draw a tombstone, the Boot Hill tombstone.
Here lies Phil. Here lies Kevin.
And you'll write your epitaph, and then there's this little epitaph,
Yeah.
great guy, great husband, or great mom, great friend, that kind of stuff. Versus your Boot Hill one, like here lies John Brown. He made Jack Smith mad.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a wonderful story.
He lost the card game.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of epitaphs, and really you're about writing your epitaph.
Yeah.
That's biggie. That's that arrow of time.
You should go through time.
Right. That's your so it adds it, and that allows you to finally do an analysis, which is given my behaviors, there they are, all of the whole package, meaning all of my approach behaviors and all of my avoidance behaviors, all that together, are they working to get me where I want to go? And now that is called functional contextualism. We just call it workability. And that's ACT. So ACT is this very simple thing of getting you to where you can get that distance view and notice if you're getting on about where you want to go. If you don't know where you go, talk about values. Figure out where you want to go. Cool. If you really can't notice, it's probably because your face is plastered to the whiteboard there.
Yeah, you're like this.
And that means you need some diffusion.
You need to go back here.
To back up.
Back up.
And then that's the adding of flexible frames. Okay.
Oh, I see now.
Right. We're going to add flexible frames to get you backed up off of that. So that's what it is. That's the process. That's the ACT process. So in the end, when you say, hey, who's important to you? That goes in the lower right. and you say, what kind of yucky stuff shows up? And that goes to the lower left. And you say, what kind of stuff do you do to get relief from the yucky stuff? You put that up there. And then you say, well, what kind of stuff do you do to approach who's important to you? And you put that up there and you say, oh, you can notice all of this stuff. And that cranked over the engine. That began that process. Now, what happened there? You backed up. I didn't. Notice we built it, we made it so that you don't ever have to say anything about ACT or anything. It requires no discussion whatsoever about ACT. You just do what I just said. People are now looking at the board, they're looking at whatever they're drawn. That automatically adds the distance, the 10,000-foot view, automatically.
Me here, looking at my stuff there.
So it automatically added diffusion. Just that quick, okay? It contains, it's inherent in that is where you want to go, which is toward who's important to you. People will say that. I want to go toward who's important to me. I also want to go to what's important. I want to be the national tiddlywinks champion. Okay, there you go. I always remember tiddlywinks from when I was in preschool or whatever.
Nah.
Remember that, Phil? That game?
Oh yeah, I had them. I had tiddlywinks.
But whatever. I'm sure if you YouTube it, you'll find the tiddlywinks championships.
Yep.
But who knows? But anyway, you got a direction. I want to be a star tennis player. I want to be a golfer. I want to be a soccer player. I want to be a fireman. I want to be whatever. That kind of stuff also gets into that lower right quadrant and establishes a direction. So now I've got distance. Now I've got a direction. Now I can notice avoidance. I can notice approach. And now I can notice if all of it's working to get me in the direction I want to go. That's ACT. All the rest of it, you can do all the other stuff. You can get your ACT books out and just roll through them all you want to. But at the end of the day, that's the process. That's took me 17,000 hours, I estimated, to come up with the simplification of the process. So that's it. Then people say, oh, well, this is all you have to do. We didn't say that.
Nope.
Might be. That might be. Show that to somebody, they're good to go.
And off they go.
You might need to spend years doing values work and diffusion work. I don't know. I'm a pragmatist. I know not everybody's the same. Phil and I have both seen it, though, where you show that diagram to somebody and they're good.
Yep, they just take off.
They just take off.
They go, oh, I get it. I know what I want. I know what I got to do. I know what I want.
We're not saying everybody, but there's several people out of 100 that you might see that'll.
Yep.
They got it. They see it.
They get their aha and off.
That's what I needed to see, and I mean it. You see them 5 years later, and they're still cooking. It's amazing when there's something about clicking on that point of view, and then there's this other side who almost never get it. For what reason? They just have difficulty developing that distant view from the self. And, fortunately, it's 2% or something. It's very small. But it does happen.
Don't get it. Right.
That's why we say it's a heuristic. It's not an algorithm. It doesn't work every time, but it gets the process started. Now, why do we want to get the process started quickly? Another conversation. This is a plug for single session psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming soon to a channel.
Yeah, right. As we speak.
Completed it. But Phil and I, we got to talking many years ago, and it's like by the way, if you look it up, folks, you'll discover most psychotherapy lasts one session.
Yeah. To go through, look at all the therapies and all the appointments that had been made across the board. One
session. So we said, let's give them something in one session.
Yep. Let's make it memorable.
Make it memorable, make it useful. And it turns out if you show that diagram and go through who's important, what's your yucky stuff, do the loop, do the noticing, that you're not even at 10 minutes, folks, into a session. So you can do this in a 15-minute primary care visit. Okay, so it's fast, and you have given somebody something that they can take home with them and use. And it is actually, oh, did you put therapeutic heuristic? It's
Yeah,
therapeutic.
it's very therapeutic.
It's therapeutic. It is. It's therapeutic.
People will even say, "Boy, this is like," they'll even say, like, "This is like mental health." I had one person, "This is like mental health." Like, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, therapeutic showing up, right? That's what I say, "Cool."
So it's really fun. And in all honesty, folks, you don't do much else than that. The trouble, okay, back to language. Remember, this is built on language. If you do very much of this stuff, you're quickly going to learn that there's a whole lot of language traps that can get us stuck. Remember, we talked about getting stuck, and there's a lot of them that can get people more rather than less stuck in language. And so for Phil and I, words are dangerous. You just never know what's going to come out of your mouth. That instead of building on this, well, oh, we didn't mention the target of ACT, the fancy target is psychological flexibility. That's that distance. All that is.
That's this.
You
Definitely.
never have to mention it. It's just the distance. But but there's so much that can slam people back on the sheet, and they'll lose the distance.
Yep.
And that's if you accidentally utter a word that hooks them, and you didn't know. You think, oh, aardvark, that's easy. Nobody has that. Well, you meet somebody that got bit and mauled by an aardvark or something. It's weird, but it happens. And now you're into I hate aardvarks.
Right.
And you're in a place you didn't want to be. You're not in a therapeutic place. It's you don't have time to deal with aardvarks. Okay, so you want to just give them the process and let them go. Show them the matrix and let them go. That's the single session. Okay, so that's what we're talking about there. So with that, we don't. But even if think I might be seeing somebody multiple sessions, I'm still going to let them go. I'm just not. I don't mean walk out the door, but I'm just going to let them talk.
Right.
And they're going to be staring at the diagram,
Yeah,
and
like
they're
this.
going to be talking.
It'll be up there.
It's going to be up there, and they're going to be telling their story. And this is something that people think. At least I've heard people say, "Well, you don't let people tell their story or something." Oh no, we just do the diagram first, and then we let people tell their story. Because when they tell their story, which is usually a stuck story, into the diagram, they're using the 10,000-foot view to look at the story.
Coming from this perspective.
That's all. It's that simple, folks. When you tell your story into that, and that means who's important, the subjects of your story or the elements of your story, who's important, the emotions that show up, the looking at, leaving kind of behaviors, the avoidance kind of behaviors that show up in stories, the approach kind of behaviors that show up in stories. All of that stuff is in there. Every single story ever told has those 4 elements. Bill and I have tried.
Oh yeah.
There's not any
I
stories
break it, and we have not cracked that yet.
all stories contain those elements.
All going in there.
Right. And so the story now you can assist in that. They're like, oh, that sounds like upper left stuff. Oh, that sounds like lower right stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to, that's called sorting. You can do that if you want.
You don't have to.
Some people don't even need that. They
No.
don't need it at all.
No.
They just tell their story into it. We know people who like to come back every 2 weeks or every month and come back and tell more story into the matrix. Also known as long-term psychotherapy.
Right. Yeah.
It's just that we took chit chat check-in therapy to an art form.
Oh, we did.
We did. You can using the matrix up there. We used to joke about people doing chit chat check-in therapy. Actually, back in the day, I would have been saying that pejoratively. Like, all they know how to do is chit chat check-in therapy. Well, then I discovered something. Almost everybody does. I mean, I don't care if you say you're psychoanalytic or your behavior or your CBT or even your ACT. Guess what? If you listen to the recording of the session, it's pretty much chit chat, check in. Think of it. You're a CBT therapist and you have 25 clients.
Right.
By the time you hit 24 or 25 in that week, you're done with
your flexibility meter is on you.
And you're just going to chit chat. So we flashed the matrix up. And now we don't have to worry about it. Session 1 has got the matrix up and they chit chat and talk into that. And session 25 of the week is into it. And this is like, it really reduces burnout tremendously.
Big time.
And the clients do most of the work.
Yeah.
Not doing the work. I mean, you're just sitting there sort of assisting them if needed into telling their story into the diagram.
Collaborating with them and
And the diagram's always up. It's either over there
or it's behind me here, something like that.
There used to be a psychiatrist that communicated with us. He had put one on a lazy Susan on a table between he and his client. He was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And he would draw on it and they would wheel it around and they would look at it.
Yeah. That's really cool that he did that.
That was clever, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had people put it on the floor so that people can get up and sort of dance it, move around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like kids like that.
Yeah, I did a bit of that. Yep. Telling stories, walking around the room. Yep.
Still, you're telling your story into the matrix.
Yep.
Or into a therapeutic heuristic. You want to be fancy. If your supervisor doesn't like the term matrix, say, well, I have a therapeutic heuristic I would like to show to you. Oh. Now you sound learned.
Yeah.
And you do that. But it's really that. So you quickly show them the process and you're doing ACT.
The whole time.
I know there's some ACT people out there who are like, oh my God, you're not doing ACT, you're not doing values work, you're not doing diffusion work. Believe me, you're doing diffusion. And you actually are doing values work because it keeps rolling back around to who's important to you. What's important to you? That's values, folks. Everybody on their deathbed wishes they spent more time with their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's that arrow of time again. And I wish I had used my arrow of time more with my loved ones. Look at it that way. So it works just fine. So there you go. That's a geek out.
Yeah.
Did we do it, Phil?
Well, we should end the rest of our
precision,
scope, and depth. We should tip our hat to that just a little bit, I think, before we wrap it up. And we've been talking about it the whole time.
Because we did it. This is easy because we already did it. It's already, the precision is the diagram and very few words.
Yes. Remember Kevin said scalpel. So we're using words like a scalpel, like you're
very few words. And what we mean by that is you draw the diagram, senses mind, do whatever you want. I don't care. Right. Then, it's who's important to you. What's your yucky stuff? What do you do to get relief from the yucky stuff? What do you do to get satisfaction moving toward the stuff that's who and what's important to you? And now you can notice all that. Didn't take me very long to do that, did it? I don't. Those are your words. That's it. Don't use a lot more words than that. Keep it simple. Keep it very precise words. That's the precision. Very precise. Scope is I find a place in human life around the globe that diagram doesn't fit.
Right.
All humans share that view. senses, mind,
Go
approach.
you.
That's always there. That's the scope. The depth is depth of analysis. You can make that complicated. Just go with the cosmic thing,
Right.
which is, wow, that's deep. That's what.
We trained somebody last week, and I was training a group of people, and I said something using the diagram, and the woman did the classic. Did that.
Oh no! When he says that, people really will. They'll do that.
Mind blown. Yeah.
The most famous use of that was in Apocalypse Now. If you want to watch that movie, remember it was Dennis Hopper.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
Mind blown, but it's around other places. But they'll literally do that. Well, that's deep or cosmic or wow, or they'll even say deep.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's deep. Wow. And it is, by the way. So that's what we mean by precision scope of death. So you're using a very few number of words, of your words, that is, to deliver somebody a point of view that relates to all aspects of their lives.
For maximum impact.
That's what you're doing.
Yep.
And that's what you're supposed to be doing with ACT. Delivering therapeutic stuff with precision, scope, and depth. And, so this is I haven't managed to shorten it. And I've tried, folks. You say, well, we can lop off the horizontal.
Yeah, we've done that before. We can lop that off.
But then you get around, people start behaving, and then it's
all right. Let's
bring
it back up.
But I've managed to shorten it very much. It's pretty succinct as it is. Now, what'll happen, just so folks know, people will come along and say, oh, we've added something to it. Look at this. We added something. If you send me an email that says you've added something, don't be surprised if I don't answer you. Because I don't know how to respond to you without sort of no.
Nope.
Why? Because if you add, you're losing precision.
You're adding words.
You're adding words, and you're losing precision.
And you're losing You're losing that.
So, please send me anything where you think you have elegantly lessened the words.
Oh yeah.
I'm all ears.
Oh, that's always cool to hear about that.
Always, but if you're adding,
nope, not so much.
That's by definition less precise. So, right now we're running around the world, and we got senses and we got mind, and we're doing approach and avoidance.
Just like that.
Sorry, folks, that life is that simple. But it is. Now, your mind makes it infinitely more complicated than that.
Down here.
It ain't going to buy that it's that simple.
Yeah. No, it can't be true.
My mind doesn't buy it's that
simple. Yeah, I've never been able to convince mine. Nope.
However, when I present it like that, I can remind myself and others, yeah, it is that simple.
Yeah.
Nobody's mind buys it. Don't worry. I'm not trying to.
And there's your reminder right there.
Your mind mine's a hell of a thing. It's just this ability to think and have all these emotions and experiences simply with thinking is just amazing.
It is.
And it gets us just in all kinds of troubles.
Mm.
I mean, it gets us some cool places too, but the best I can tell, it gets us into more trouble than it's worth. So I don't know. We'll see.
The jury's still out on that one. Right?
Jury's still out. But in the meantime, get on about it. Engage in life.
Yeah.
Go watch the first few minutes of what is it? Oh dang! I just blew the name of the movie. with No Country for Old Men.
Oh, No Country for Old Men, yes.
First monologue that's delivered. Might
Yeah.
as well get on about getting into this life,
Yep.
something like that. So that's it. Get in it, and then notice.
Yep.
Just do stuff and notice. It's a fun trip. So we'll be back. We come up with different stuff to talk
Yeah.
about. What we have been working on in the background, though, is a single session psychotherapy course that people can get free CEUs for if they want. So we'll have that finished up in the next week or two.
Yeah, next week or two. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you then. Have a great Friday. Unless you're watching this in 2034 on a Tuesday. Have that.
Yeah.
Notice that arrow of time.
Ooh. It's confusing.
Bye-bye, folks.
All right. Take care. Stay safe.